one thing that comes to mind is head tracking. But the question is, where's the center? Where's front? And if I'm moving my head or if I'm actually moving my body around, that's where the sensor nexus comes in. In terms of what we're loosely calling head tracking, you could also call it motion tracking.
Microphones are another way to solve that, or to use that, let's say, because you can use microphones to detect where someone is actually sitting or being. Yeah? So that's another input sensor that you could actually use.
Adding the new concept of object at all. So you can imagine this more or less like putting part of the mixing console from the studio to the consumer. And now having the mixing console at the consumer side, you have a lot of new possibilities. So you can add signals you are generating on site. You can manipulate the signals coming from the source. And so we are just at the beginning of this whole development.
I think it's a paradigm shift in a way that most of, let's say, almost all content and almost all devices, they're absolutely wonderful devices for enjoying and reproducing sound, but we haven't been utilizing, or we haven't been putting the human being in the center. Touch is one of the most impactful emotion creators. And if you can feel the sound also with your skin and body, increases emotions, increases the impact of the content. In principle, because audio is vibration, sound is vibration, so you do not have to do anything with the content. So any content is already vibration. We're just so used to only using the airborne sound waves. There are people who are extremely sensitive, people who want to have more beat into it and more immersion, and you can actually control that. So there's a way of treating the signal so that you can have the fieldness and loudness being controlled independently.
What I think you're going to see with the advancements of machine learning is very much tied to kind of people's buy-in for those enhancements and privacy. That's where you're seeing some of those inventions today. And I think you're right that the edge processing is where it becomes interesting of what can then become locally once processing and memory become big enough. And then what is that kind of, agreement being very transparent to the user.
Yeah, so there are some things going on to use AI in the encoding space to improve the encoders. The big problem here is what is the model to be used for the improvement. So normally you do subjective testing, some people listen to it and then improve the encoding process, but now you have to have a model which tells the algorithm it's getting better or it's getting worse. So this is one of the big problems we have to solve here.
When we talk about AI and machine learning, it sounds like this very advanced, highly technical solution. But when you really think about it, it's all about adding contextual, situational awareness. And I think it's a very sort of pragmatic solution to a problem that we have right now, which is that these devices that we use are kind of not intelligent. I don't want to insult my laptop, but it's, I can imagine it could be a lot more aware of who I am, where I am, who I'm talking to, and imagine how we could improve the experience if we had that kind of personalization and situational awareness.
Yeah, there's definitely been advances in both reconstructing speech. So Polly from AWS does that of if you call a telephone service and the computerized voice, that could be serviced by a service like that. And then also like conversational speech, that has to be lots of AI and web scrubbing to oversimplify it, to have something that's able to have a back and forth dialogue as a computer assistant or that type of product.
AI helping in recognizing in situations where you have shared experience, shared audio, seated entertainment, cinema, car environment, using the technology that it recognizes your preference. It's not only, you know, hearing, you know, the loudness and fieldness, of course, from my point of view, but really also using in places not only when you're personally there, but when you're sharing the experience, because that often creates really annoying situations where the next door sitting to you want to have it really loud in the car or backseat. Andreas, we talked about this once before. You know, being able to personalize your sound zone, even when you're not wearing headphones. And I think that's something that AI can really help us doing.
So I think, yeah, you're definitely going to see that, you know, people repeat things that they know will work with high levels of confidence. It's as you advance down the road, how do we get those additional features to be additive and not, you know, so confusing and complex? When you try and do too many things, I think is where you kind of lose people. And so I think that's where the innovation and the interest kind of occurs. Music playing, obviously, people are really good at. So the technology is definitely there and the choice is definitely there. It's just building it into those habits. It's how much utility does that bring where it's no longer novel to where it's actually useful. And so right now, I think it's still in the novelty phase of like, oh, that's interesting. I can have a conversation with Alexa. I'm good. I'm going to go back to using command and control functions. I don't need to have a conversation with her right now. And so it's where that kind of, you know, it's that old adage, and we have a feature that's looking for a market. And so that's the type of thing I feel like we're at now. And so when the reverse occurs, then I feel like the technology is there to address it.
Having really the personalized audio, I think the immersiveness, you know, whether it's immersive surround sound or creating experiences where you're using all your senses.
So what I think is interesting is I think we're at that inflection point for especially voice control, but audio in general. Amazon has that voice interoperability initiative where multiple agents can be on an individual device. I think that will be very interesting.
The other big question here is how much will people accept in this voice control and so on, because they're giving up privacy. So this will be an interesting question. How much are people accepting these new technologies? How much they are reluctant because they're giving up too much of the privacy? That's something we will see in the future.
Is that your audio experiences will also be, you know, they can seamlessly travel with you wherever you are.
You guys might think I'm crazy, but I see 2030 augmented reality being a huge part of our daily life experience. And a part of that is going to have to be a generative sound system for virtual objects.